After a lot of testing, I'm so stupid. After a lot of testing, oh my god. In the last Gelli Fields devlog, I changed major game mechanics, which really helped the game feel so much better, and it also removed a lot of the annoyances the game had. And some of the eagle-eyed viewers noticed a few other changes I made. Today I'm going to talk about those changes and explain why they are so important to making the game feel and play much better. The first problem was the level balloon. In the original slime game years ago, whenever you would level up, a treasure chest would spawn that the jelly would open and it contained fun loot. I really liked this mechanic and wanted to bring it into the new game, but in a better way. I decided that a floating balloon that you pop would be a really fun idea for a few reasons. The first reason is that it wouldn't take up any planting space because it was in the sky. I also liked that something was interactable in the sky because it added an extra layer to the game when you normally only interacted with the ground. The biggest reason why I added this was because it was leftover assets from Gelli World, a project that I was working on that sadly was cancelled. In that game you could glide on a balloon, and I also had planned for there to be shops that would deliver items inside presents attached to balloons, and they would just like float around. This mechanic ended up not working for a few reasons. The first reason that I honestly didn't realize is that I unintentionally copied Animal Crossing, which has presents attached to balloons. Once I realized I did that, I immediately wanted to change the mechanic because that was not my intention to copy Animal Crossing or get inspiration from it. The actual reason why I wanted to change this was because it just wasn't really fun for the player. A balloon would spawn and sometimes it would take a little bit to find where it spawned, and they would just appear somewhere in the sky, and when you click it, sometimes it would land in a weird place and the entire thing was just really clunky, so I knew I needed to change it. The second thing I knew I needed to change was the inventory, or, well, a lack of it. Throughout the development of this game, I have had a huge back and forth with the idea of an inventory. In the original concept for the game, I had an inventory, and when I first made the game, I included the inventory, and it was in the game and working. I decided to remove it because I wanted to reduce the amount of things on the screen at once, and instead have them be physical in-world things that you interact with. For example, instead of the sell box, there originally was a spot to sell items on the screen. These types of interactions with the screen took me out of the game when playing it, and also weren't very satisfying, so when I created the sell box mechanic, I also removed the inventory mechanic as well. After a lot of testing of the game, a problem rose, and that was item management. The further you get into a biome, the more crops you are harvesting, and those items start to get annoying to have to individually drag to the sell box, so I wanted a solution for that. My first idea was to make it so that you can have items in stacks, but that came with a bunch of different problems. How would you remove items from the stack? How exactly do you get them in a stack? What if you want to just convert one or just sell one item? So I ultimately decided against stacks. The idea I came up with was a physical inventory that you pressed a button to spawn and you could put items inside it and take them out whenever. I tested it out and it was actually really helpful and worked great. However, there were still some problems I had with it. It was only 5 slots and its layout was horizontal. This means you had to move an item pretty far left or right to place it into the inventory, and I didn't quite enjoy that much. Something that I do enjoy is Mario, and I went to see the Mario movie, and I can say that I thoroughly enjoyed the movie. It was like a beautiful mashup of all things Mario, filled with hundreds of tiny details that I'm sure will make any Mario fan happy. One thing about the movie that I love so much is the Mario Brothers van. I like the look of it so much that after we saw the movie, we went to the store so I could buy a little play set of the van. I don't know why, I just love the look of it. Me and Delana liked the movie so much that we actually wanted to go see it twice, but ultimately we talked ourselves out of going and seeing it twice. We were literally gonna see it like a day after we saw it. That's how much we liked the movie. We already established the level balloon was something I wasn't very happy with, but I couldn't originally decide whether I wanted to adapt it into a new thing or scrap it completely, and I actually ended up scrapping it for a different mechanic that I planned on adding in a different kind of way. If you played one of the super early tests of Gelli Fields, you would have seen Lunapons in the shop. A Lunapon is a capsule toy like the ones you find in quarter machines, and I've included them in many of my projects. The first time I added a Lunapon to a game was my first ever game, Luna Lane, which the Lunapons were helpful playing cards that gave your character magical spells and abilities. And I wanted to bring them back in Gelli Fields. Essentially, you would buy them from a Lunapon machine and they would contain playing cards based on a jelly, and it would then unlock that jelly for you to use when playing. I ended up removing the ability for you to choose which jelly you get, so I also removed the Lunapons, but I figured it would work great as a replacement for the level balloon. Every time you level up, you're able to get a Lunapon which contains a random item. This mechanic is not only really fun, but also extremely satisfying. I came up with this idea that the Lunapon kind of grows and then pops out of the machine in my earliest concept sketches for Gelli Fields, and I'm so glad that it's finally in the game. Keep in mind this design for the Lunapon machine is still placeholder though, so it doesn't really look that great. When it comes to the inventory, I went back and forth trying to come up with a great solution, but I decided I have a good thing right in front of me, I just wasn't using it right. So what I did was redesign the look of the inventory and change the layout to be 2 rows of 3. This makes it easier to put items into, and also adds an extra slot so you can hold more items. I want to provide a great game for my players, so I always want to come up with the easiest and most fun mechanics for players, and I do think the inventory works and is fun. I mean, if you just did a massive harvest of crops, it's perfect to use it to collect a bunch of them and then convert them or sell them. Another thing that I did that a lot of you might have noticed, but a lot of you might not have noticed, is that I actually changed the max size that an item can be, and so I ended up going back through and changing a lot of the sprites for items, particularly ones like stone. You can see a pretty big difference in those, and now they fit in the inventory better and they scale better and they look good and great.